Today, we're diving into one of the most critical yet, well, often invisible forces in business, the customer experience. Because what really separates the companies that thrive from the ones that just kind of fade away? It often comes down to how well they hear what their customers aren't saying. So let's start off with a little puzzle. An angry customer, they can be a real handful, for sure. But are they actually the biggest threat to your business? Just keep that question in the back of your mind, because the answer, it might not be what you think. All right, first things first. Let's establish the ground floor, the absolute baseline of what a customer expects. And that baseline is customer satisfaction. It's really just a simple, straightforward promise. What you deliver is exactly what the customer was hoping for. It's not some spectacular, life-changing event. It's just a solid, reliable experience. And that is the foundation everything else is built on. But just meeting expectations? That's only the starting line. The real magic, the kind of stuff that creates lifelong fans, that happens when you go further, when you aim for something a whole lot more powerful. Now, here's a really interesting idea: involvement. I mean, not all purchases are created equal, right? Filling up your car with gas is a pretty low involvement task. You just expect it to work. But booking a family holiday, whoa, that's high involvement. Your emotions are totally invested in that. And that is exactly where delight comes in. It's what happens when a company gets the emotional stakes and just goes above and beyond. Think of the hotel that upgrades you on your anniversary, or the airline that somehow finds a way to help you after a flight gets canceled. That's how a simple transaction becomes a memory you talk about. Okay, so we have the good, that's satisfaction, and we have the great, that's delight. But what about when things go wrong? This is where our whole understanding of customer behavior takes a really crucial and honestly often misunderstood turn. Common sense might tell you that an unhappy customer complains. They shoot off an angry email, they make a call, they leave a scathing review online. But the data? It reveals a very different and, frankly, a much more troubling reality. Take a look at this number: 95%. That's the estimated share of your customers who have a bad experience. And what they do next is the really important part. And there it is, the answer to our opening question. What's more dangerous than an angry customer? A silent one. Why? Because the angry customer's actually giving you feedback. They're giving you a chance to fix the problem. The silent majority, they just vanish. There is actually a formal term for this: customer defection. They don't give you a second chance. They simply take their business somewhere else, and you might not ever even know why. They basically become a ghost in your sales data. But their departure, that is not the end of the story. Nope. In fact, that's when their real impact on your business begins to be felt, spreading outwards in ways that can do some serious damage to your reputation and your bottom line. I love this quote. We all know our best marketing is a happy customer telling their friends, right? Well, the exact opposite is also true. Your worst anti-marketing is that unhappy customer who just left. They are out there, and believe me, they are sharing their experience. And the impact is just staggering. A satisfied customer, they might tell about a dozen people about a good experience, which, hey, that's awesome. But a single dissatisfied customer, their negative story travels so much further, reaching up to 20 people. Bad news just travels faster. It's human nature. Now, I know this all sounds pretty grim, but understanding this problem is the very first step toward turning it into a massive opportunity. It forces us to completely reevaluate where we should be focusing our time and our money. So this leads us to the whole concept of customer retention. Instead of constantly trying to fill a leaky bucket with new customers, the focus shifts to patching the leaks and keeping the amazing customers you've already earned. And if you need the business case for retention, if you need the hard numbers, well, it all comes down to this one. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. For every single dollar you spend on marketing to find a new customer, you could have spent just 20 cents to keep an existing one happy. I mean, financially, the argument for focusing on retention is just overwhelming. For companies with subscription models, think about your cell phone provider or streaming services, this is measured as churn. A high churn rate is a constant, expensive battle. It means your customer base is literally eroding, and you're spending a fortune just to stand still. But here is the opportunity.
You can actually break the silence by actively reaching out to customers who have left, by doing what's called a lost customer analysis. You can find the root causes of why they left. And fixing those problems, it doesn't just help you win a few back. It prevents countless others from leaving for the exact same reason. So we end right where we began, but hopefully with a whole new perspective. The loudest voices, those angry complaints, they are often not your biggest threat. The real danger lies in the silence of that 95% who just walk away. So the ultimate question for any business is, what are you doing to hear them?